Bonelab is dead. Stress Level Zero recently announced that they shut down their studio and are abandoning the project altogether on their Twitter. With how torn the community is about the state of Bonelab, you would expect Stress Level Zero has actually shut down, foreclosed on their building in Los Angeles, and the Marrow engine engulfed in flames. But thankfully, none of this is true, and the Stress Level Zero team are hard at work focusing on the future of not only Bonelab, but VR. While much can be said about how SLZ has handled Bonelab, it's important that we are not short-sighted into their approach. SLZ isn't developing for next week or even next month. They're developing for the next few years by building a foundation for VR games. While it's okay to be upset about the current state of Bonelab, it's important to not lose sight of the larger picture that Brandon and the developers are creating. Now, I'll be the first to acknowledge it's been a hell of a wait, and it's been over 432 days since Bonelab has received an update. But what lies ahead is what we should really remain focused on. Stress Level Zero has an impeccable track record for VR games. Hover Junkers, Duck Season, Boneworks, and now Bonelab. Each entry has been an improvement from the last, with a wider audience of players being immersed into their universe. But as the studio continues to make games, it comes at the detriment to not build out a more solid foundation for their developers. With Bonelab, this is now changing, and they told us why not long ago. In April of last year, Brandon tweeted, "It seems that 2023 will feature the launch of more meaningful VR headsets than games. Getting hardware right has been hard. VR games are proving harder. We're working as diligent as we can to de-bottleneck Marrow games, enjoying the journey but eager for the destination." Now, it's easy to dismiss and look past the deeper meaning of Brandon's tweet, specifically the last sentence. However, the journey that Brandon is referencing is what we're in now with Bonelab, and this journey started with Hover Junkers and continued through Boneworks. If SLZ can accomplish their goal of de-bottlenecking Marrow, the future of VR will be better for everyone. Now, the approach that they're taking is smart, and if done correctly, they will not only dominate the VR space, but they will be the standard for competition to measure up against. With many half-assed mobile-esque VR games, Stress Level Zero delivers a quality, polished product. Believe me, I've played a lot of VR games that are complete crap, and I know you have too. With all that said, we need to let them work and see this through, because the destination that they envision is something much greater for VR. While many were disappointed in SLZ's anniversary post for Bonelab, mostly because it lacked content updates and focused more on technical improvements, there's still a lot to learn from this post. In the anniversary post, Brandon discussed how they've been rebuilding existing content in-game. Why did they do this? Well, I'm not sure if I'm the technical expert on this, but how I understand it is essentially they've rebuilt the game from their core tech. The reason being is that they've been building a better foundation than what Bonelab previously released with. Brandon went on to say how this was best for long-term, most likely indicating better development for future games. To summarize the post, SLZ is focusing on the long term and not short content updates. The content will come, but they're building out a better foundation for themselves. While it's hard to hear, content is not a priority for them right now. What they're doing is best for the player long term, because the goal is to make the Marrow SDK the same externally as it is internally. I'm no developer, but I cannot imagine that's a simple task, let alone for VR. I'm not sure about you, but if I had to pick a developer to lead the VR space into the future, it's Stress Level Zero every time. In recent months, it's clear that the community is passionate about this game, with endless posts bashing the developers and many reviews claiming they abandoned the game altogether. While criticism is deserved, I feel that the bitterness is out of passion rather than hate. There's very few VR games that have created the magic that SLZ has with their games, and it's why the community is channeling their anger. The anger is simply out of love for this series. Yes, I want more content updates. Yes, I wish they'd communicate more. However, their approach isn't changing to how they interact with the community, and Brandon stated as much in the anniversary post, saying they're heads down working on the SDK. Love them or hate them for their approach, we need to respect their dedication. It's time we as a community accept the hand we're dealt and give Stress Level 0 the respect they deserve. Given the stable staging branch has recently been updated, we might be seeing an update in the near future. Let's have them show us what they've been working on before we rush to judgment. As we navigate the emotions surrounding Bonelab, let's appreciate the lasting impact that Stress Level 0 has had on VR. Without them, VR games aren't progressing. They're not just part of VR, they're integral to its progress. Without them, VR would undoubtedly miss out on a studio that drives innovation.